Human history is filled with complex, often conflicting stories, many of which have been carefully constructed to shape our understanding of the world. These conflicting narratives are not simply byproducts of different cultural perspectives, but often serve a deeper purpose: to control the masses, obscure truths, and prevent humanity from achieving its fullest potential. One of the most profound deceptions lies in the story of Christ, a figure central to religious teachings but shrouded in mystery, manipulation, and unanswered questions. Yet, the deception surrounding Christ is not an isolated event. It is part of a much larger web of hidden truths, suppressed knowledge, and controlled narratives that span across religions, cultures, and history itself. The story of Judas betraying Jesus has always been one of the most perplexing elements of the Christian narrative. Traditional accounts present Judas as the ultimate traitor, driven by greed or malice. But these explanations fall short of answering why someone would betray the Son of God. What if the truth behind Judas's actions is far more complex, tied to deep revelations that we've never been allowed to explore? One possible explanation, informed by voices that have guided me in my exploration of the deeper, hidden truths, offers a radically different interpretation. The betrayal of Christ, according to this understanding, was not out of malice, but out of a desperate search for truth. The story goes like this. Jesus, tormented by doubt, sought counsel from his most trusted friend, Judas. In a moment of vulnerability, he confided his fears about the path they had been walking. "My friend," Jesus said, "I have doubts. I fear that the revelations and prophecies I've been following may not be from God, but from the devil himself, shape-shifting into the form of the Lord. I have seen signs that suggest the teachings we've been following have been leading us astray. Perhaps all this time, we've been walking the path of deception, unaware that we were being drawn into the grasp of something far darker." Jesus, after spending time in private communion with what he believed was God, started questioning whether he had been deceived. The being he encountered had shown him hints that it was not the true God, but a trickster, the devil, using shape-shifting to distort his perceptions and cloud his judgment. These troubling revelations led Jesus to wonder whether the entire course of events they were following had been a ruse designed to bring them away from heaven and into the darkness of the world below. And so, in his heart, Jesus became conflicted, unsure whether the divine message he was following had been true or part of a grander deception. Judas, upon hearing his friend's confession, became consumed with guilt and a sense of duty. He feared that, by continuing to follow this path, they were betraying the true covenant. His role in the betrayal, therefore, was not driven by malice, but by a belief that he was acting to correct a wrong, to stop the destructive course that had been set in motion. Jesus, knowing that betrayal was inevitable, chose to meet it head-on, recognizing that this was the only way to confront the deceit he now believed had led him astray. His death and the events that followed were not simply acts of martyrdom, but attempts to free himself and his followers from the lies they had been caught in. The story of Christ's betrayal is not the only example of manipulation and deception within religious teachings. Throughout history, religion has been used as a tool to control and suppress humanity, keeping us in the dark about the true nature of our existence. Religious institutions, while preaching love and truth, have often concealed or distorted information to maintain power, wealth, and influence. One of the most profound deceptions in human history has been the manipulation of theology and spirituality, steering believers away from critical truths and toward false narratives. For example, the idea of witchcraft and its suppression is a telling illustration of how religious institutions have manipulated history. Churches, for centuries, have denied any association with witchcraft, yet many of the rituals practiced in Sunday Mass are eerily similar to witch cult ceremonies. The symbolism of Mother Mary, the use of unlucky rabbit's feet, and the concept of golems all point to connections between ancient mystical practices and mainstream religious rites. The teachings of Jesus and Moses, often described as miraculous or supernatural, resemble the traits of magical or witchcraft practices. The Church's attempt to erase these associations is nothing more than a smokescreen to hide the true, more complex history of these traditions.